Hey guys, and welcome back to the Chromeworks studio. I'm Andrew Tomek, your technology teacher, back with another Scratch tutorial. Today we're going to be making a fun Simon Says game based on one of my favorite cheesy electronic toys from the 1980s. Oh man. If you like this video, remember to drop me a thumbs up and subscribe. Let's get right to it. We've got a starter file here that has all the graphics that you need. You notice that there's one block here called yellow, which is just one of the 6 blocks that we're going to be running on our screen. The actual screen you can see here in my title screen. This is what it's going to look like. We're going to have 6 different colored blocks here, all arranged quite nicely against a black background. So this is the splash screen for the project we'll be using later. I'm going to hide it for now. And I'm going to hide this get ready, which we'll be using in a little bit as well. So we've got our one yellow block on the screen right now. I'm going to code this one, and then we're just going to duplicate it. As you can see in the costumes here, there's actually 6 different costumes for it, each one a different color. So we're just going to make copies of this one block so that we don't have to do a whole bunch of coding all over again. Let's get this coded, and then we'll code a controller later on. I've got this little fortune cookie. We're going to send it to its start location. So I'm just going to give you these start locations. I did use a little bit of math and trial and error to figure these out. So minus 150x, 85y is where we start. We're going to get the funky 80s style sound effects going. We've got our music plugin loaded here. As you guys probably remember, you can get the music plugin loaded by going to the bottom left of the screen and clicking on music here. So this is a special add-on that gives you some new blocks. So I'm going to go set instrument, and we're going to pick instrument number 21, which is called synth pad. And you can see when I play a note on this one, you'll see it has a funky, oh wait, it's not actually, that's the default piano sound when we click on this though. So we've set it to synth lead. Oh, that's not right. Oh yeah, here it is, 21 synth pad. There we go, a nice little kind of 80s style sound that we can pick with our piano key to play sounds. So for this first one, we're going to go with note. We're going to skip over to the top octave. We're going to have the high notes at the beginning and then move down to lower notes. So I selected, you can pick your own sound scheme for this, but I picked my high note to be note 79 here. This one here. So we're going to set our instrument to synth pad, and we're going to use this play note in the second. All right, so when the game gets started, we're going to have that ready screen flash across the screen, this block here, and it has a bunch of costumes that basically go through these dots moving to show that we're ready to go. So we're going to have these kind of flash a little bit randomly so that just to give a little visual flourish when the game goes. So each one of these is going to flash on and off in a little bit of a random order, so that they're just kind of a collage of different colors going across the screen when you start while we're getting ready to play, and that'll give the player a chance to get going as well. So to turn these lights on and off, we're not actually going to change costumes, we're just going to set a ghost effect. So this is the on state of this particular thing. Let's go to our looks blocks and grab a block here that says set color effect. We'll change it to set ghost effect. And you can see that when I set my ghost effect to make it transparent, I'm going to go with a 40 here. And you can see that when I set my ghost effect to 40, it's going to dim quite a bit. And this is going to be the default color of this. And then we're going to flip it back to 0 again to turn off the ghost effect. And you can see that'll give the appearance that our light is going off. So set ghost effect to 40 is the next block that we need here. Now we're going to do that funky flashing effect here. So what we're going to do is just tell our guy to wait a random amount of time. So let's go grab a wait block from our control, and we'll go wait, not 1 second, but a random amount of time. So we'll drag a random number into there, pick random from between 0.1 and 1 second. And so that will just give us a random number that's less than 1 second, in this case 0.4 seconds. We don't have to worry about all the decimals here, 0.5 seconds, 0.6, 0.68, 0.9, 0.2, just like that. So it's just going to randomly wait a little bit and then start flashing these lights on and off so that they're all out of sync as they're flashing, basically. All right, we're going to go grab a repeat block, and we're going to repeat a couple of different things here. So we're going to be changing our ghost effect here to make the lights dim and go off. We're not just going to go on and off. We're going to have them dim a little bit, then go on again. So we're going to repeat 2 times here. And then we're inside that, we're going to repeat 8 more times. And the reason for that is because we're going to do a get dim and then get bright inside here. And we want that dim, bright effect to repeat twice, basically. So let's go to our looks commands here. We'll change ghost effect here. All right, so we're going to change our ghost effect by -5, which is going to make our screen go from 100 ghost, which is completely invisible, or sorry, from 40 ghost, which is somewhat invisible, to back to 0, which will be totally visible again. And then let's duplicate this repeat block and its contents, and we'll put it right underneath the first one. My finger slipped there. And in this case, we're going to bring it right back up to 40 again by setting our ghost effect to go up by 5. So I can show you what this looks like. If we just isolate it from the rest of the code here and click, you'll see it'll flash on and off. There we go. And so that's what's going to happen at the very beginning. It's going to happen to all of these lights, but in a slightly different order every time because of the random number effect here. Okay, so we're done with that part here, and now we just need to tell our lights to switch on and off and play music. So we're going to use messages to have each one of these guys light up when the computer tells them to light up, and we're also going to tell them that when we click them to remember that we clicked them so that the computer knows what our pick was when we're answering back. So a couple of things that we need for that. So I'm going to create one block here, a custom block here called play me, that's going to make this note, play its sound. I'm putting it into a custom block because we actually have to use it twice. We have to use it once when we enter our input, and we have to enter it again we have to run it again when the computer enters its input. So rather than coding it twice, we're going to create a custom block. We'll go to the reddish My Blocks, and we'll click on Make a Block, and we'll call this block Play Me. There we go. So there's our definition for the block, and we can add our code there. So let's go set color effect, change it to ghost effect to 0. So we're going to start with the lights, with the block lit up at a ghost effect of 0. Then we're going to play our note. So we're going to play that note 79 for 0.25 beats. You can change that timing if you want. And then we're going to wait for half a second. So we're going to put a little bit of a delay between the plays of each note, 0.5. And then we're going to set our ghost effect back to 40 again, which is going to make the light dim again. So ghost effect to 40. Let me just click on that block and I'll show you what that looks like. So when I click play me, there we go. And you can see that the light lights up and it plays its music. And so that's going to happen in 2 different spots here. The first place that's going to happen is when we click on the block. So let's go with our events here. We'll go when the sprite clicked, play me. And so now I can click on my block. And you can see it reacts exactly the way that I want it to. I'm going to get rid of that get ready. I don't need to see it right now. All right, so that's working perfectly. Now the other time we want this to go is we need the AI, the computer, to ignite this, to light this block up when it picks. So the computer's going to pick a random block, it's going to light it up, and then it's going to invite you to try and light up the same block, basically, right? So we're going to create a bunch of events here. So we'll go to our events. We'll go when I receive a message that's just called 1. So this will be the first of the 6 blocks. And when it receives that message, it's going to play me as well. So if I go to my events and broadcast a message called 1, which is what the computer is going to do from over here inside the controller, you see it will light that block up. Perfect. Okay, so this is actually all that we have to do for our colored blocks here. Now what we're going to have to do is duplicate these guys, and for every one of them we're going to have to change the costume, change the note that it plays, and change the name of this message block. and that will be all the customization we have to go do here. So let's go duplicate this yellow. I'm going to right click on it, which gives me a menu, and I'll duplicate. And we'll go and change the costume for this. So I'm going to change to green. We'll rename this fellow green. And let's go back to the code and make some minor tweaks here. So the first thing we want to do is change the note. Let's change that note to 76. So right now we're on 79. We're going to go 2 over to the left. And you see it's playing piano now, but as soon as we click on the green flag here, it will start playing that synth sound again. Okay, beautiful. We change the costume, we change the note, and we have to change the event as well. So when I receive new message, I will make this one block number 2 to be played here. Okay, so far so good. Let's duplicate again, and our next color block will be red. So let's go change our costume to red. We'll change our note to, I believe it's 72. Yep. We'll change the next note to 72. And I won't show you how to make that synth sound play again because you already get the idea. We're going to do our new message. It's going to be 3. And we'll change the name of this to red. Oh, I forgot one other thing, which is we have to change the X coordinates of these guys as well. So my green has to be in a different location, of course, so that it's the next block over on this. So I actually want my X to be 0 and my Y can stay 85. Over on my red, I need my X to be 150 instead of minus 150. And my Y can stay at 85. Okay, let's duplicate that red. We'll change the costume to our next color, which is blue. And now let's change the XY coordinate right away before I forget it. So that's going to be minus 150. And then minus 85. There we go. We will change the note here to 67. So let's go there, go back one page to... The notes I picked here are actually what we call in musical terms an arpeggio, the do, 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 which is a natural progression of 4 notes. And then when I went up to the next page, I just went up a little bit higher. I went do, do, do. And so that's the notes that I selected for this. So did I change that note? It's note 67 for blue. Beautiful. And we'll change the name to blue. And we'll change the message to number 4. There we go. And did I forget anything? I don't think so. Okay, let's duplicate this guy one more time. Change the costume to the next one over, which is orange. We'll change the name to orange. We'll change the location to 0, negative 85. We'll change the note to 64. There we go. And I think that's it for that one. And then we'll do one last duplicate here. We'll get our last color here, which is pink. And we'll call it pink. We'll change our coordinates to 150, negative 85. We'll change the note to note 60. Whoop, there it is. And we'll change the event. It should be event 6. I think I forgot the event in number 5 here, so I'll call this one event 6. We'll go back to our orange. Oh, I knew I forgot something there. And this is event number 5. Okay, so we're actually done with our tiles. They're not positioned properly. Let's click the green flag and they should all magically fall into place. There we go. And you can see how they all give that little random splash as soon as I click the green flag. Just a fun little introductory thing just to get us going with our project. While we're doing this, we might as well get our get ready set up here. So I'm going to go over to my get ready block here. There's not too much code to add there. We'll just go, when I click on green flag, we're going to show this guy. We're going to go to the front layer, just in case our layers got messed up there. We're going to start a sound. I have a funky electronics or electrical sound here that I downloaded from my favorite sound website, freesound.org. Let's listen to that. That's just a fun little electrical arcing sound that we're going to play in the background while our game is getting ready to start running. So let's go start sound in there. Start sound electricity. Now, we're just going to have this guy go through his different costumes here. And he's got 4 different costumes here. So we're going to repeat it 12 times, I think, so that we have time to go through all our costumes 3 times. So let's go next costume. And we'll just do a wait of 0.2 seconds between them. And once we're done that loop, we're going to hide or get ready, and then we'll be ready to play our game. So let's go hide. Okay, so let's try the game right now. We'll click the green flag. And you can see we get the get ready animation running, and then our game will start playing. Beautiful. Okay, so now we'll go over to the controller. This is where things get a little bit more interesting. So I'm going to click on my little fortune cookie here and we can start coding that. So we're going to be using a list command here. So you're going to learn a little bit more about lists today. What we're going to do is every time the computer picks one of these blocks, it's going to add the number of that block, 1, 2, 3 through 6 here. It'll add it to a new list that we've created. And then it'll play that note back by calling each event. So it'll give a number 1 to play the number 1 back, and it'll play that number 1. Then it's going to check and see what we click when this sprite clicked. We're going to see what I clicked and see whether it matches up with that particular number on the list. And if it doesn't match up, that means it's entered the wrong block, and that will work. Now to get this running, we're going to use a broadcast and a wait command, which I don't think I've ever used before in any of my coding tutorials. So broadcast and wait works exactly like the broadcast block. It sends a communication over to another block in a different sprite and tells it to activate itself. The only difference with the wait is that the code, normally when you do a broadcast, the code jumps right to the next block inside that sprite and keeps doing whatever it was doing. So a broadcast normally branches off your code so that more than one thing happens at once. In this case, we want our code to go off, do its thing, and play that sound effect and light up that light. But we want the rest of the code here to wait for that process to be done and then resume what it's doing here. So we're going to use a broadcast and wait to light up that block, and then it'll go and light up the next block and the next block. And we don't want them all to happen at once, of course, or our lights are going to all flash simultaneously. So we want to have a little wait in between. Okay, let's start with our coding here. We're going to go when green flag clicked. So let's wait a few seconds. I think 3 seconds should do it. So that'll just give us some time for that introductory sequence to go. We're going to start a new list here. I'm not sure what's already been created here. Yeah, it's called Tiles to Remember. So let me show you what that list looks like. Right now it has 1 number on it, but it'll probably be blank when you call it up here. There we go, Tiles to Remember. So every time the computer picks a new tile, it'll add to that list, as I said. So the first thing we want to do is it will remember these numbers in between plays, so we need to delete all of these items. So I'm going to go delete all of Tiles to Remember. Remember that the list commands are below the variables, so they're part of our variables, but they're actually the slightly darker brownish orange ones down below the normal variables. So a list is a kind of a variable, but it's a variable that can have more than 1 entry in it, basically. And in computer terms, we call this an array or a 1-dimensional array. where we can just keep adding items, and each one of these is kind of a sub variable within the one main variable called tiles to remember. Really powerful function for a lot of games, and something you're going to have to learn a little bit more of if you want to get really great at coding in Scratch. Okay, we're going to do a forever loop here. We want this game to keep running forever, and so all of our code inside here is going to be in a forever, and really we need two different sections here. So inside this forever loop, we're going to run our code through two different sets of commands. The first one is going to have the computer take his turn and add a new sound to our list, or a new colored block to our list. I'm going to hide that. Oh, actually, let's leave it up for now. So I'm going to keep this list up here just so we can see it running. I'm going to do it kind of between these different lights here so that you'll still be able to see the lights light up here for a while, and we'll erase that later. So in our first step, we're going to add to this list and have the computer play its sound, and then the computer is going to sit patiently and then wait for us to click our sounds and check our work to see whether we're right or not. So let's start phase one here. The first thing we're going to want to do is we're going to want this code to run once the first time, and then add a second one, and we'll have it run twice. So we need a variable here that's called count. I've already created all our variables here in our starter file, so let's just go set count to 1 for our first time around this loop. We're going to set tile selected, so there's a variable here, tile selected, and this is the computer actually picking which of these 6 blocks it's going to need. So I'm going to go to my operators, grab a pick random from 1 to 6. And so that will be the computer picking which of these blocks to light up the first time. We're going to add that to our list. So we're going to take that tile selected variable, let's go down to our lists here, and we're going to go add to tiles to remember. Now this, if I just click this the way it is, it will add the word thing to tiles to remember, which we don't want, of course. We want to add that variable. So the variable is going to be tile selected. So let's go to our variables. We'll add a tile selected. And so I can simulate what this is going to look like. We'll have it pick a random number here from 1 to 6. And I'm not sure what the tile selected, what it picked here. Let's have a look. It's number 1 that it picked. So when I click on this now, it'll add that 1 to our tiles to remember list. Beautiful. If I click on it again, you can see it selected the number 5. And I can add that to our list as well. Okay. So let's drag all this inside the code here. Now we want to go through here and play each of the notes on this list. Now it's going to be a different number of notes each time because our count's going to keep going up, adding more things to our list here. So let's go repeat this. We want to repeat it the same number of times as the number of items that we have on our list. So we're going to repeat the length of this list. So in this case, repeat length of tiles to remember. So we have 2 items on our list, and watch when I click on this, the number it outputs is the number 2 here. And saying that there's 2 items on the list, that means it should go around the loop 2 times, once for each of these items on the list. Now we're going to broadcast and wait. We're going to go to events and use that broadcast and wait. And you can see when I broadcast message 1 here, it will play note 1. When I broadcast note 4, it'll play note 4 just like that. Okay, so, but we don't want to broadcast a specific number here. We want to broadcast the first note. So we need a variable in here, and that variable is going to be the first item on this list, in this case 1. So we need to look at our, we want basically item 1 of this tiles to remember list, and then next we want it to be item 2. So let's go to our variables. We'll grab item 1 of tiles to remember, but we don't want that item 1 all the time. We want this to change once for each time through our list here. So we're going to use this variable called count. We'll drop it in there, and that will play through the entire list. I can actually show you this right now. If I pull this repeat out of here, it's going to play note 1 and then play note 5. Watch. Uh-oh. Oh, the count variable didn't change, so it's just playing 1 twice because it keeps playing item 1. So the other thing we're going to have to do in here is change our count. Let's go change count by 1. So now this should work properly. Let's try it one more time. 1, 5. There we go. And if we add a new item to our list, let's try doing that. So we'll go set tile selected to a random number and then add it to our list. There's a new item on our list, and we'll just add one more here, maybe even another one. So set tile selected to a random number and add it to the list. There we go. So now we've got 6 items on our list, and now or 5 items on our list, and let's hit that repeat block and watch it play through those notes. Hold it one more time. We didn't reset our count number again. So let's go set count to 1. And let's try simulating that one more time. There we go, 15446, beautiful. Okay, so we've tested that out. It all works beautifully. Change count by 1. So we're done that first part, where the computer's just going to add 1 to this list every time and pick a new number and play that number. And it's just going to keep, so it'll go around doing this every time. But first, before it adds the next number, it wants to give us a chance to try our luck and try to remember those numbers. So we're going to do that in the next little loop down below here. So the first thing we want to do is change our count back to 1 again, because we're going to be using that same count variable here to keep track of how many of these we have clicked. So set count to 1. I think I've forgotten a block inside my colored blocks as well. So with one other thing I should have added to my colored blocks here, and we'll go add that quickly in a second here. But let's just keep going here for a second. So again, we want to repeat the length of that list. So let's go to our control blocks. We'll grab a repeat, and we'll say repeat the length of tiles to remember. So repeat once for each item on the list, basically. Now we're going to use a variable called block selected here. So let's go set block selected to 0. And so that's saying which block did you just click on? Which block did the player click on? So we want it to be 0 right now as the default. And it's going to wait now, basically. So we'll use a wait until block. Let's go to our control blocks. Or sorry, it's an event block. No, I think it is a control block. I don't use this one very often. We're going to go wait until block selected is greater than 0. So let's grab a greater than 0. And then block selected we'll put in there. So I'm hoping you can see what's going on here. We set our block selected, which says which one we've clicked. And we set it to 0, saying that nobody's been clicked. And now the program's going to freeze here until we click on one of these blocks, basically. So as soon as we click on one of these blocks, it's going to assign it a number, and then that number will suddenly be greater than 0, and the code will know that it can continue. So we're just getting the code to sit here and wait until we click on something. Now we do need a code to some code to make that happen. So what I'm going to do here is set block selected. So this is a little thing I forgot to do in the first step here. So when it goes, when this sprite clicked, play me, we also want to change that variable here. So I'm going to go set block selected to 1 here. And we're going to have to go through all the rest of the code here and change that so that it knows which numbered block you selected. Let's go to green. We'll set block selected to 2. And under red here, we'll set block selected to 3. Then we'll go to blue. We'll set block selected to 4. Then we'll go to orange. We'll set block selected to 5. And then under pink, we'll set block selected to 6. So now that variable will change every time we click one of these blocks here. I'm going to hide this list now. We don't need to look at these variables anymore. All right, so let's go back to our controller again, and we can keep going here. So it's going to wait until you click on one of these blocks, and now it needs to compare the number that you clicked with the number in its database. So that's what we're going to do next, and have a look at that. So we want to say if we actually pick the right thing, then it's just going to go ahead and select the next block and just keep going all the way down the list here. It's only if we fail to get the right block in place that the computer will actually have to exit this loop. So I'm going to add an if statement here. Go if so we want to look at that list of tiles to remember, look at the first item on the list, and then the second item on the list, and the third item on the list, and we want to compare that to the block that we just clicked on. So if I click on block 1, let's say the first note that comes up is block 1, the yellow here. So the computer's going to add 1 to my list here, and when I click on this, it's going to set that block selected variable to 1. So now it's going to compare the number. It's going to say, is the block selected the same as item 1 of my list? And if it's not, then we're in trouble. So we're going to do that with a not command. Let's go not. If not, and then we need an equal sign inside there. So if block selected, the block that I clicked, is not equal to that item on the list, item count of tiles to remember. So if the block I picked is different from the first item on the list, then we get an error situation here. Now I'm not showing the score. I want to keep the interface really clean here, but at the end we're going to flash the score and show it compared to the high score here. So we're going to process all of that stuff right here. Let's go set score. So we're only going to see the score when we lose the game, basically. Set score to, well, we want it to be basically how many of these did we get through, how many rounds did we get through before this all started working. So I'm going to go set score to count. Well, count doesn't count the fact that you have a failed attempt here. So we're going to go count -1. Count -1. So we're going to set score to that, and that should tell us how many rounds we lived through before the game before we end up losing the game. All right, and here's where we can reset our high score. So I'm going to say if our score is greater than our high score. This is the way you do a high score in any game, by the way. We just go to our variables. You will want to use a cloud variable if you have the ability to, so that you can check the score against a global amount, but I think it's pretty easy to cheat in this game, so I wouldn't really trust the global variable for this. I'm just going to use an ordinary variable. So we're going to say if our score is greater than our high score, then we set high score to match our score. And so this is a typical way that we make a high score work inside our game. Okay, so we're going to broadcast a game over message now. So outside of this if statement, we're going to go to our events. We'll go broadcast. So we've got to put this down in the right spot. It has to be underneath this if statement, but inside these other 3 layers of code here. So broadcast a new message called game over. There we go. All right, so that will send the game over. We'll deal with the game over events in a second. We don't need to deal with that right now. So it's going to check and see whether we got a wrong note. If we did, then it'll get us into our game over event. If not, it'll skip that and go down to the next layer here where it changes that count variable. So let's go variables, change. So outside of this if statement, so there's 2 layers of stuff down below it, change count by 1, and it's going to go around there one more time. Now, after we're done repeating the list, it's going to go back and add a new item to our list and then play the sounds all over again. We want to give the player a little bit of time to take a breath in between rounds here. So I'm going to go wait 1 second here. You could make it longer if you wanted to as well, 2 or 3 seconds. But 1 seemed to play nicely for me to keep the game kind of moving. All right, so I believe that is all of the code here. So we don't have our game over event running here, but you should, but believe it or not, this will actually pretty much run now. So let's cross our fingers and give it a try. I'm going to click the green flag, get ready. And there's our blue light that lit up, so I'm going to click on that. There we go. And it's going to play blue plus red. There we go. Blue, red, red, blue, red, red, blue, red, red, green. You get the idea. So blue, red, red, green. And let's say I picked yellow instead. Then you'll see now it's gone ahead and it's continuing to add the next note because it doesn't know what to do when I got the wrong thing. It got a game over message, but then just carried on with a loop here. So here's where we have to have something happen to end the game when we get that wrong note going there. So that we will do in our game over block here. I've designed a fun little game over block here. Let me show it to you. It's just the screen with a splash across it. You can't see here because it's covered up by blocks. Let me show you what that looks like. So I made it look like our screen got smashed, basically. To accompany that, I have a little sound effect of glass breaking, which I got from freesound.org. I thought it'd just be a fun way to end the game. And so we're going to have this thing triggered off and then end the game to stop this loop from going around again if the game is over. So let's go to our game over sprite here. And we just need to do a little bit of code here to make this run when the green flag is clicked. So we're going to have that game over variable show and hide. It's only going to show at the end after you've lost, and it'll flash for a second. So let's go to our variables. We'll go, so we want to hide those variables at the beginning of the game. Hide variable score. And we're going to hide variable, I just did the wrong thing there. We're going to hide variable high score as well. There we go. Now we want this graphic hidden, so let's go to our commands and we'll say hide. We'll send it to the back so it doesn't get in our way. And we'll make sure it's in the middle of the screen in case it accidentally gets dragged somewhere. We'll just say go to 0, 0. All right, so this thing's gonna sit in the background, not doing much of anything until it's gonna be hidden and at the back, so there's no chance we're gonna see it. Now we're gonna wait for that game over event to happen. So when I receive game over, this is when this thing takes over. So what we're gonna do is show our variables now. Let's go show variable and show variable. We want our score and our high score to be visible here. We'll tell it to go to the front since it's hiding at the back. Go to front layer. We'll have it show. And we'll play that sound effect. Now we're going to use a play sound until done because right after this we're going to be killing the program and making it end. So we want to have time to make sure we're finished playing that sound before our game gets nuked. So that's why we're using a play sound until done. It'll freeze that script until we move on to the next thing. We're also just going to make it wait an additional 2 seconds just to make sure you have time to look at your high score. And let's go hide those variables again. So I'm going to grab those 2 hide variable blocks and duplicate them just to try and save a little bit of time here. And let's add those down below. We're going to hide those variables again. And the last thing we want to do is just kill out the program there. We're going to do a stop all, which will stop everything. Now, while I'm still coding this, let's do our thumbnail as well. I've been adding thumbnails to every game recently, and I think it really adds a professional polish to our game. So in this case, I've designed a splash screen that has the word memory blocks on it. And we want this to basically be on the screen all the time when we're not playing the game. So we're going to use a ghost effect to do that. We're going to keep it at the front and then keep it ghosted until we turn the game off, basically. So when green flag clicked, let's have it go back to the middle. We'll say go to X0. Then we're going to tell it to be invisible. So we're going to set that ghost effect under our looks commands, set ghost to 100. That will make it completely invisible while we're playing the game, but it will make it always visible when we've stopped playing the game. Let me show you what that looks like. Let's show this. And you can see when I click the green flag here, it hides, but then as soon as I hit that stop button, it reappears again, because that ghost effect only works while the game is running. We're using that little hack here to make sure that the thing is always visible on our screen. I think it looks really professional. All right, let's go to our control blocks. We're going to have this go to the front at all times. It's going to be invisible, and we just want it to make sure that, because we're changing the stacking order of some of our other blocks here, we want to make sure that this invisible thing is always hovering in the background, ready to go as soon as our game is over. All right, I'm also going to add another block here that makes that memory block disappear when we click on it, in case anyone clicks on it before they play the game and they want to see what's happening underneath it. So when this sprite clicked, this is definitely optional. So when this sprite clicked, we're just going to have it fade out. So let's go to our control blocks, repeat 10, and we'll change ghost effect by 10 here. Change ghost effect by 10, and that will make it fade away. So when we're playing the game here, even if you're not playing the game yet, if you haven't clicked the green flag, you can click on here and it will fade away. But you click the green flag. Let's get our game running now and just give it one last try here. So orange is our first block, orange, pink, orange, pink, blue. All right, I'm not going to keep you guys waiting too long with this. So let's go orange, pink, blue, and then I will click red. There we go. And our game is ended. You can see our score is 3, our high score is 4, and that's perfect. Let's try that one more time just to make sure that high score is working properly. I'll try to go for 5 here. Blue, blue, pink, blue, pink, blue, blue, pink, blue, yellow, blue, pink, blue, yellow, yellow, blue, pink, blue, yellow, yellow, red. All right, here's where we're gonna mess up. So let's go blue, orange. Oh no! And our high score did not get updated. All right, so that's a bit of a problem. Let's go back and look at the code here for the update and see what's going on with that. So we've not selected set score to count -0. So the count doesn't actually track the number of times it's been through the list here. It tracks, oh, okay. Because the count goes back down to a small number again, and it will go up every time we go through here. So because I made my error the second time through, the count was only 2. So we're gonna have to fix that, I think, and I hadn't tested this out until now. So there's one little tweak we're gonna have to do here, which is we're gonna have to change our, we're gonna have to create a brand new variable here that tracks just the number of times that we've been through this process here. So at the end, so every time that we successfully do this, so let's create a new variable here called successful turn. So we're going to set that successful turn basically right here at the end of every round before we go 1 second. So let's go set. So at the beginning, let's set successful turn to 0. And then we'll change selected turn, successful turn by 1. every time we go through this loop here, and then it comes around and does the first thing. So let's try that one more time here. Let's we'll just leave that variable visible here for a second. Oh, and we still have to change one more thing in the code here as well. So our high score code has to change to not to count -1, but to successful turn. There we go. So now let's test it out, and this should be our last try. So our first pick is purple. And there we go, we did 1 successful turn. And that was 2 successful turns. There we go, 3 successful turns. 4 successful turns. I'll go to 5 here again. And here I'll mess it up now. I'll click the wrong block. Game over. And you see our high score is 5 and our current score is 5. So that's perfect. Okay, one little unanticipated bug there, but I thought that went very smoothly. Alright, so that is it for this particular lesson. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I hope you learned how to use that broadcast and wait block, which actually turns out to be really useful in turn-based games like this. So go ahead and use that. Remember, you can remix my games and add new graphics. There's all sorts of fun stuff you can do. Add different sound effects. Instead of musical tones, you can have funny character sounds. Instead of having these colored blocks, or you could decorate these colored blocks and add scratch characters or manga characters or whatever, and have them light up and get dark. It doesn't have to be a plain object here. It can be almost anything that you want. So just use your imagination. As always, there will be a remix room. You can find that by going to chromeworks.ca/lessons. And by all means, remake this game and tell me what you think. As always, you can drop me an email at info@chromeworks.ca. And if you have any suggestions for a game you'd like me to make, I'd love to hear it. Thanks, and we'll see you next time.